Hello and good morning and happy new year to this wonderful, very promising year of 2023. I'm Dr. KDEL. I just wanted to start us off on a great sound footing in the new year by welcoming you and saying congratulations for crossing over. I am so glad that I was able to do that as well. So welcome to this very brief presentation. I'm Dr. KD Ewulu, the lead coach for KDE Leadership. And we're going to be looking at just a very small, maybe 45-minute presentation that deals with how to get more done with less, a current roadmap, okay? At the front of the screen, you're going to see some of our URLs, how you can get in touch with us. But having said that, we'll go ahead and begin. All right, as I said, I am Dr. KD Ewulu, and I'll be working with you going forwards. All right, so let's really get to it. Okay, what is it that we're looking at today? Basically, this presentation is going to focus on a few key points. Okay, we're going to be looking at how to do more with less, especially with the reduction of efficient real work personnel. Okay, we're all facing that. We're going to be looking at how to sustain and inspire the productivity of our staff members while they operate remotely. Of course, a lot of people are working from home, whether you're running your own business or you're working for somebody else or a bigger company. There's that agitation for working from home. Some people think it's a good thing. Others have tried it and they've seen that it's not quite that great thing we all thought it was. We're also going to be looking at how to leverage technology, in this case, project management tools and techniques to manage our tasks more time effectively and more cost effectively. Having said that, some of the tasks we're going to be looking at include the following. We're looking at how to prepare and manage our budgets. Okay, that is something that is very important in these days where everybody's lean and mean, okay? You don't run your budget well, you don't run your money well, you're going to run into trouble, all right? We're going to be looking at our scarce human, financial and human resources. We're going to see how we can make those adequate, how they can run for us, how we can use less people to do more work. Okay, and then finally, we're going to learn how to effectively supervise highly productive, but geographically dispersed team members. Okay, that is critical if we're going to be successful, either as a one-man team, a small business. You're working for a large corporation where your team members are located all over the world, all over the country, all over the different states, even all across the city. Whatever the case may be, we are constrained on how to effectively sustain their high productivity. All right, so let's get down to it and look at how to sustain productivity in a virtual world. I'm going to be sharing a few things with you on that. We're going to be touching on the first thing is how to establish a productivity baseline, how to indoctrinate a high performance mindset, and how to inspire efficiency and effectiveness remotely. And we'll round it up with micromanagement and self-directed work, the basics of that. And having said that, I will just go ahead and move on to the very next thing we're going to be sharing. Now that you know, the first thing is how to sustain that productivity in a virtual world. And these are the 4 things I said we're going to be looking at. Establishing a productivity baseline, indoctrinating a high performance mindset, inspiring efficiency and effectiveness remotely, and then of course, micromanagement, how to self-direct your work. All right. So let's look at that. In trying to establish a productivity baseline, what that means really is, what is the minimum acceptable level of productivity? You got to put that in place. People working for you and with you need to know what the basic expectations are, what the minimum acceptable productivity level is. That is establishing a productivity baseline. And in order to do that, you're going to have to plan and standardize, okay? Apples to apples, oranges to oranges. What's good for Mr. A is good for Mr. B. That's the way it works. The expectations for one person or one department is going to be the same for the others. Then you're going to be looking at how to involve the troops. When you're establishing a minimum acceptable baseline for productivity, involve your people. You don't do it alone, otherwise you're stuffing it down their throats. You want to involve them. And then, of course, you need to pilot pilot this, whatever it is you agree upon, there's going to be a dry run, okay? A pilot to see whether it works. And then you have to also involve the evolving needs of your clientele, because your clientele's needs are not going to be the same year in, year out, okay? It's going to change. And you've got to factor that in as you establish your productivity baseline. All right. The next one we're going to be looking at is how to indoctrinate a high performance mindset. What does that include? You see, people need to know that a lot is expected of them. High levels of performance is expected of them. And you're not going to be there with a big stick, urging them on, coercing them, forcing them, threatening them to get the work done. It's going to be something they want to do from here. So how do you inculcate that in them? So it becomes a self-driven thing, not something that you're threatening with in the background. You're not micromanaging them. You're micromanaging them, and they must want to get stuff done the right way. So there's got to be feedback, okay? When you give people feedback the right way, okay? Let them know what they're doing right. Let them know what they're doing badly at. Factor in, tweak your language in such a way that it's acceptable to them. People don't like, most human beings don't like being told they didn't do well. That's just a normal human phenomenon. So you got to learn how to choose your words carefully. All right. And as soon as people kind of tell you what it is they want to get done, you must include that back again in your baseline. That is tweaking. If you don't tweak your baseline to more or less like include their suggestions, they think you're not listening to them, you're not hearing them. So remember to go back and tweak your baseline, your plan, to make sure that it includes their suggestions, the feedback that you received. And then something I called milestoning. It's the ability to break your work up into small, easily manageable chunks. When you do that with your people, they're able to self-direct their achievements. You don't have to be there with them. They have a list of the things they have to achieve. But the milestone aspect is that you have to have calendar dates involved. When you put calendar dates into the things that they have to do, and they accept those calendar dates as reasonable, then you've got them performing at a high level. They've got buy-in, they've got ownership, they've got pride in their proposed or anticipated productivity. And then there are rewards in there for them to know that when you reach this peak, when you get to this level, this is what you get for that. This is how we reward you for that. People need to do that. These are the ways that you indoctrinate a high performance mindset. Let me go through that again. There's feedback, there's tweaking, there's milestoning. This brings buy-in from those that are working with you, or if you're part of a team, you're working for somebody else, you have buy-in, you own it, okay? And there's pride in the work you do. And then, of course, you know that there are rewards that are coming with them. Now, the next thing we're going to be looking at is how to inspire efficiency and effectiveness remotely, virtually. Now, it's one thing to inspire people when you're in the room with them, when you're there in the office with them. It's another to inspire them and keep that inspiration going when you're not co-located with them. So in order to do that, to get them to want to do great things efficiently and effectively without you closely monitoring them, you've got to be able to self-track them. You've got to be able to give them something to allow them track themselves. You've got to be able to give them some leeway to learn the new direction. It's called the learning curve. Everybody has a different learning curve, okay? So you've got to allow people time to learn. Don't just say, well, we want you to produce 100 units of this in 3 months. Well, maybe they're new on the job or new on the software. They might not be able to get to 100 units the first 3 months. Give them a little time, scale it back a little bit to maybe 80 units, and then you can work from there going forward, okay? Make sure that there's a learning curve. And then you get to what we call incrementalism. The better they get, the more you increase the expectations, but make sure that you do that collaboratively with them, okay? And then, of course, you learn how to remotely monitor your people. Give them boundaries. It's an illusion. You're giving them the impression that you are closely monitoring them, but the truth of the matter is you're not. All right, it's a mind game there. You're inspiring them. When they find out that you're not, that you're actually trusting them to be efficient, to be effective, they are going to work for you. because they enjoy working for you and not because you're paying them enough to work for you. You see where that inspiration comes from. People want to be taken to that space where they want to do something, not because they are threatened to do something. That's where I want you to be. Okay, and that takes us to the macro management, where you're sitting back and letting them do stuff on their own. That's self-directed work. You're leveraging the milestones that you've put in place to get stuff done. They know what is due at every point in time because they have that list. They prepare the list with you. They prepare the calendar dates with you. So they are bought in. So you're leveraging those milestones, and that helps them in their self-directed work. Now, sometimes some people do not meet up to expectations, and that's where training comes in. You got to delegate tasks that are easier for them to handle. You might throw in a little bit of coaching there, show them how it's done, do it together with them, step back, let them do it while you watch them. That is the ex-Dempra process. We're going to be talking more about that as you get into trainings and what have you. And then, of course, you want to also manage by objectives. It's called the MBO. In the 1990s and 2000s, MBO was a big thing, management by objectives. You give somebody an objective and you step back and let them determine the ways and means of getting things done. All right, so having said that, there are also 7 key ingredients when you want to do more with less, okay? As a human being, you got to learn to be tolerant, okay? If you're asking people to do more, they don't have enough staff, they don't have enough money, they don't have enough resources to keep it going, then you got to inspire them. You got to cut them some slack, okay? You got to be tolerant, you got to be flexible, you got to be understanding, okay? You got to be encouraging. But most importantly, my friends, you got to learn how to communicate, all right? People want to be heard. They don't necessarily want you to obey them. They just want to be heard. They want to know that you've heard them, okay? So please mix in communications with your tolerance, with your flexibility, and with your understanding. Having said that, there are a few key leadership pitfalls, okay? And this happens in the remote field. Now that we're all working remotely, I'm broadcasting to you remotely right now. You're receiving them in the comfort of your offices or your private, your bedrooms or living rooms, whatever the case may be. And so some of us run our establishments that way. And there are a few pitfalls that we might face, okay? Some of us take our remote people for granted. We don't show enough appreciation. That's normal. After they're only doing their job, they're getting paid, right? Okay, some of us set goals and forget and move on. We don't stay connected with those that work for us remotely. That also is a pitfall for most leaders. Some of us end up swing to the other end of the spectrum where we'll micromanage unnecessarily. Okay, what I want you to know here is if your people finish their tasks on time, frankly, you have nothing to fear. All right? Again, another leadership pitfall is some people expect their employees to be available 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week. That's not on. They've got to go to the grocery store. Yes, they're working from home. They've got other things they have to do. Remember, they're working 8 hours a day. And I need you to remember as well that most people who work from home work more than 8 hours a day. Think about it. You remember something at 9 p.m. at night. You go crank up your laptop, you toss in 20 or 30 minutes in there. That is extra work you're doing, and you're not charging your employer for that. So these things happen. So cut your people some slack. Don't expect them to be available 24 hours of a day, 7 days a week. All right? Do not forget about team spirit and camaraderie. Don't forget that. Still find a way to remotely interact with your people. There's a software that I use a lot. It's called the Concept Draw Office. It allows you to brainstorm and mind map and get your projects into a Microsoft project or Concept Draw project format, Gantt charts and what have you. So it's another thing you can use to build team spirit and camaraderie. Find those games where you interact with the entire team. Okay, have a video conference call. Okay, just let people be free and easy. Try to find something that will make people relax and be more connected. Okay, don't get hung up on the well, if I can't see them, then they must not be working. It's a mentality that can take you backwards instead of forwards. So try as much as possible not to do that. Okay, having said that, enough of the advice. Let's move on to The next thing we want to do, doing more with less, which is more like budgeting in the midst of scarcity. Okay. And before we can do more with less, we've got to first identify what are the optimum resources of our organization, of my company, of my team, okay, of my leaders. What is it that we have that we call our resources? This includes money, staff, time, our constituents. When I say constituents, who are they? Our clients, our suppliers, our distributors. These are all our constituents. They are resources, equipment that we work with. The agencies that collaborate with us out there, they're also our resources. And then, of course, our contractors and consultants, those that we farm out work to, that for one reason or the other, we're not able to do in-house. These are all our resources, and we utilize them as we budget in the midst of scarce times. So let's get to it. The first thing I want to share here is there's budgeting, there's scarcity. Then there's the mindset of optimally applying your resources during crisis or during scarce times. Optimally applying these scarce resources you have during crisis moments. Okay, and then finally, you have how you can virtually resource your applications, how you can get those people working for you during crisis and scarcity. I'll break it down. I know it sounds like a big thing right now, but we're starting the new year and I want us to do it right, okay? If you don't get it done right and begin to, January is always a time of planning. So this is the time of planning. This is a time of building a foundation. I want you to build it right. So the next 11 months will be 11 months of great strides, okay? That's what we're doing today. So bear with me as we go on. I won't take too much of the time. The first thing is budgeting can be defined as a plan that includes the money that you will spend, when you will spend it, okay? And your budget can sometimes include your income and your expenses, okay? And in order to produce a reasonable budget, you must first plan your project, estimate the plan, and then add a timeline to your estimate. It's when you add a timeline to your estimate that it becomes a budget, okay? You want to also plan your project. How do you plan your project? Make a list of all the tasks that you will complete the project. Sequence them from first to last, okay? And then you want to assign the people who handle each task. That's just how to plan your budget. All right. So basically, in budgeting, you have planning your budget, estimating your plan, and budgeting your estimate, okay? As I said, you got to plan the project, you got to estimate how long it will take, how much money is going to cost, and then you got to ascribe time to each of those tasks to make sure you have a budget going forwards. And that's really all I'm trying to explain here, okay? Adding a timeline to your tasks includes that final duration for the entire project. Remember to add in contingencies, okay? Some companies have 5% to 15% for contingencies. What are contingencies? Okay, the unknowns, those things that can come up that you didn't plan for. You better have some money put aside for them, okay? Depends on the industry you're in. Some people go from between 5% to 15%. And then for profits, some people go between maybe 15% to 40%. It all depends on your industry. Whatever the case may be, remember that after you budget your estimates, you must include contingencies and then building that 15 to 40% for profits. You're not working for nothing, okay? All right, let's get to scarcity. All right, scarcity basically is what you have right now or what you don't have right now. And scarcity includes certain concepts. There's what is called focusing and tunneling. There's what is called packing. There's what is called slack. I'll just very quickly explain them going forward. I know this sounds like a lot of material, but as I said to you, we need to understand some of these things to get into this year running, okay? Really get into this year doing great things. All right, so scarcity is having less than you feel that you need. It's a feeling, okay? It can be financial, it could be equipment-wise, it could be time-wise, it could be food-wise, it could be sleep-wise, it can be human resources-wise, whatever the case may be. You just feel that in this regard, you don't have enough. You don't have what you need to get the job done. Scarcity can occur in every field, okay? And as I said, there are different elements to scarcity. There's focusing, there's tunneling, there's packing, there's trade-off thinking, there's slack. Let me break them down a little bit. Focusing, okay? This occurs when, as a commodity such as time and money, it's scarce, okay? But you find that we're more productive when resources are limited, right? For example, has it occurred to you that you use less toothpaste when the tube is running empty? We stretch our last 5,000 bucks. We stretch it. And we write better, for those who are in the writing industry, we write better when you have a tight word limit. That's what's called focusing. You're focusing now because you don't have enough. Have you ever been on a trip and your gas is running low, your petrol is running low in your car, and you turn off the AC or you turn off the heater, wind down your glass? Why? Because you're trying to coast to the next gas station, which is 20 or 30 miles away, and you're a bit worried. So you suddenly focus on, I got to get there. Okay, for those who drive manual shifts, you get to a hill, you put it on neutral, the car speeds down on its own velocity. What are you doing? You are focusing, you are operating in the midst of scarcity. That's just an example of what I mean by focusing. All right, what is tunneling? When you single-mindedly focus on one task due to the scarcity at hand. Basically, you neglect other things as a result. So basically, focus is a positive of scarcity, and tunneling is a negative. You see how that works? Tunneling, you're focusing just on one thing. Focus, you are making sure that the little you have is enough to get the entire job done. They're two opposites, but they all work, and we use them at intermittent times in our business lives. The next thing I want to talk about is packing. Okay, have you ever tried to travel and let's say you're flying and you have a big box? When you have a big box, you kind of throw things in. All right. When you have a small box, you kind of roll things up and squeeze them in and all that. So basically, the size of your container determines the time and care you spend in packing. A smaller container means more careful planning. A larger container means more leisurely and carefree packing. That's just the way it is. Okay, that's what packing is. When you have more resources, you tend to be carefree about them. When you don't have any resources, you eat once a day. Okay? If you have a lot of resources, you snack here, you buy a drink there. That's just the way it is. That's all the phenomenon of packing. Trade-off thinking is when you give up, is what you give up because you elected to do something else. For example, eating out versus cooking at home. That's trade-off thinking. When you're broke, you buy groceries, you put it in the house, and you cook at home and you eat at home because you're trying to save money. Deciding to produce something instead of buying is also trade-off thinking. When you produce something, it might be cheaper in the long run, but it might take you more time. When you buy it, it's more expensive, but it's something quick. Everything depends on what is more important, the time of delivery or the cost. All right, enough about scarcity. Let's get to slack. This is the space you have above your immediate needs, okay? The extra. It allows you to make expenses, utilize additional human resources, spend more time on non-essentials without planning excessively. That's slack. Slack frees us up from trade-offs because we have enough time, we have enough manpower, we have enough money for the project at hand. But as soon as scarcity begins to creep up on us, slack decreases. The extra that we have decreases. We want to make it all work. All right? Okay, now we're going to look at how to optimally apply your resources during crisis and scarcity. Okay, and this includes you want to manage your scarcity within organizations. You want to learn how to categorize your tasks. You want to know how to prioritize your tasks. You want to know how to determine your make or buy decisions. Let me say that again. You're managing scarcity in organizations, okay? You're categorizing and prioritizing your tasks. And then, of course, you're making or buying your decisions. Let's get to it, okay? In order for you to operate in virtual environments during scarcity, you need to decide whether to make or to buy a product. Okay, you make a product in-house or you pay someone else to deliver the finished product to you. That's a decision we all make on a daily basis. Okay, we either make or buy. If we decide to buy, we are outsourcing. And this ultimately leads to negotiations. So I'm going to touch a little bit on outsourcing now and a little bit on negotiations, okay? What is outsourcing? Outsourcing is when you pay an external professional to deliver the finished product to you. It has the advantage of being cheaper, quicker to deliver, but it also has the risk of schedule slip-ups. You might not deliver on time. Quality slip-ups, it might not be as good as you wanted it to be. And then, of course, you have less control over the person, over the client organization, because somebody else is holding you down. You're paying somebody else, you're dependent on somebody else. So you lose some kind of control, you might lose some quality, and of course, you will lose on time schedule. But outsourcing is always cheaper, is always quicker. All right. So you determine, should I outsource at this time or should I do this in-house? That's your decision. All right. And that brings us to negotiations. When you outsource, you're going to have to negotiate with people. When there's scarcity, you want to get the lowest possible price for the highest possible quantity. That's really what we're looking for. And negotiations help us to arrive at our make or buy decisions. If I negotiate with a client, for instance, or with a consultant and find that it's going to cost me more to get this done, and that means I'm making less profit, I might decide to do it myself to make more profit for myself. So you can see how those factor in. That brings us to two different things. One is called BATNA and one is called ZOPA. These are appropriate strategies for scarcity situations. BATNA is BATNA. It's an acronym for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. All right, I'm not going to go into the details here right now. You're going to get access to that when you go to my website, when you go to some of those, you see some courses there on the website at KDEleadership.com. You're going to see all of that. So BATNA is an acronym for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Okay, and ZOPA is ZOPA. That's an acronym for Zone of Possible Agreement. So these are two different strategies that are used during negotiations. Okay, we'll be talking a lot more about negotiations later. This is not the forum for it. I just wanted to touch a little bit on that. These exist. You can research them. You can go into our archives at KDEleadership.com and get some more information regarding that. Now, this brings me to leveraging technology, but I did say that this was going to be a 30, 45-minute thing. I need to keep to time. All right. According to Winston Churchill, those who plan do better than those who do not plan. Even though they're realistic to their plan, most of us have a plan, but we're realistic to our plan, okay? But Winston Churchill is still saying that those of us who have a plan, even though we're realistic to that plan, we often do better than those who don't have a plan at all. So it's important for us to have a plan. And that takes me to leveraging technology. You got to plan your work, and that includes with project management software, initiation and planning. You got to work your plan, again, with the guidance of project management software. That is the execution. And then, of course, you got to stick to your plan. You got to monitor and control your plan during execution. So what are we looking for here? There are these 5 different aspects that operate in project management as you leverage technology. There's initiation, there's planning. These happen in the planning stage. There's execution, getting the work done. This, of course, happens in the executing stage. And then there's sticking to your plan, making sure that people are executing according to the plan. This is the monitoring and controlling stage of project management. All right. I'm not going again into full details here. We have courses that deal with those things, and you'll be able to get in touch with our coaches at the end of this to find exactly how to get a lot of this information. You need people to hold your hand and teach you how it's done or show you how it's done, whatever the case may be. We at the KDEL team are available to do that. All right, moving forward, what are the things you need to do as you leverage technology? There are project management tools. What do they include? Work breakdown structure, WBS, network diagrams and analysis. These are inclusive. Critical path methods, CPM, Gantt charts. These are PM tools available. I got a few project management software I would like to recommend to you. The most complex, handles big projects, is Microsoft Project. My favorite is Concept Draw Office, as I said, but all of them do great job. So Microsoft Project, Concept Draw Office, check them out. They're great software out there. And then I'll also recommend that you focus a lot more on team planning and scheduling and how to track your performance or your team's performance and how to bridge the gap between performance and planning. There's always a gap there. Again, I want to quote a quote from Bill Gates that talks about automation. He's very good at automation, very big on that, but there's a warning he gives. He says that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. But automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. What are we saying here? Garbage in, garbage out. If your people are doing a terrific job, they're efficient. Guess what? If you add automation to it, they're going to be more efficient. If they're inefficient and you add automation to it, they're going to be more inefficient. That's just the way it is. So it's not as if the computer or the technology does a great job for you. No, it only magnifies what you're good at. All right? It only magnifies what you're good at. So having said that, if you are focusing on Microsoft Project to use it to run your projects, you're going to be encountering things like work breakdown structures. It uses a lot of predecessor activities, calendar dates, Gantt charts, network diagrams. You're able to trace your critical path. You're able to identify critical activities. That is Microsoft Project. Concept Draw Office, this has brainstorming capabilities, mind mapping capabilities. You're able to convert your documents to project documents. You're able to convert to WBSs and Gantt chart formats, and you're able to share your outcomes utilizing PowerPoint, Twitter, and other vehicles of information transfer. So these are two, as I said, two software that I think will work very, very well. If you're working remotely with a team and you want that camaraderie with your team, my recommendation will be the Concept Draw Office. All right. So basically, as you leverage technology, there's certain things I'd like you to focus on. Collaborate with your frontline team members. They're the ones that do the work. Okay? So use them to plan how to do the work. If they tell you it's going to take 2 weeks, give them 2 weeks. If they tell you it's going to take 1 week, give them 1 week. Work with them. Put together a network diagram. Okay? Share these with your remote team members. Remember what I said about milestoning? When you put it together, they're going to work with you. If you don't put it together with them, you're stuffing it down their throats and they're not happy. Make sure that all the time that you include time and cost buffers. Okay? Cost buffers and padding to your schedules and to your estimates. What do I mean by that? Buffers occur between tasks. Paddings occur within tasks. Buffers occur between 2 tasks. Padding happens within the tasks. Enough said. All right. So remember, you want to coordinate with your struggling team members. You want to help them and develop them and get them to be great team performers. All right? You don't want to single out those who are not doing well. A team is only as strong as the weakest team member. So try and show up the performance levels of your team members. All right. So what are my final thoughts going forward? My final thoughts are, listen very carefully. I would have liked to share this with you, but maybe that's really what I should be doing right now. I need to share my screen with you going forward because I think you're going to be benefiting a lot on this. So let me just quickly share that screen with you so you don't feel you need to see that going forward. That would be very, very helpful. So I will share that screen with you going forward. First thing, you can take a screenshot if you want to. That's great. Okay. In scheduling, you want to set your work times and break periods. Critical. Take a screenshot. You want to set your work times and break periods. The next thing I want to share with you is scheduling. You want to collaborate with your tasks and make sure that you have your finish-start relationships in place. There are certain tasks that will be done together in parallel at the same time, and others that you've got to finish one before you start the other. Make sure that you schedule all those things in place. All right? Delegation, this is big. You want to empower your team to perform tasks without your supervision. The more they can get done without your supervision, the more empowered they are. The more training you're giving them, the more you are replicating yourself. I need you to focus a little bit more on that. All right, prioritizing. You want to categorize your assignments or their assignments. Make sure that you set your important assignments, your urgent assignments, and those on the watch list categories, okay? You want to handle the important urgent things first, okay? And then you want to handle the others much later. Make sure you prioritize. So you don't spend too much time on stuff that is not important or not urgent. It's important that you categorize and prioritize. Okay, phase gating. This is more like milestoning. We want to encourage the use of milestones, okay? You macromanage. Macromanage means stepping back and allowing your people to get stuff done. If they know that you have phase gated, okay? You have put things in place by phases. They were part of the planning of that phase gating. You're able to step back and allow them to get the job done. They know exactly when each task is due because they have that scheduling list, okay? So involve your people in phase gating. I talked about management by objectives. You want to leverage that. List out tomorrow's tasks tonight. Set SMART goals and small tasks. Okay? Very, very important MBO. List it out. Make sure that you have a plan, daily plan on the tasks that will get done, when they have to get done, how much time you have to get it done. If you have a plan, you have an objective, it gets easy to manage other people or to be managed. This is for bosses and managers. Be available by phone or email, okay? You can set a cutoff time in the evening so people don't abuse that, all right? But be available to your people. That way you don't have to micromanage them. They're able to call you or text you or get in touch with you whenever they need to. So you want to use password-protected cloud storage for your management by objectives, okay? For your MBO going forward. Remote employees, this is critical. For those of us who are working remotely, do not wait for the end of the day to ask for direction. Do so by midday so you can ensure there's a response before close of business. We all like to work remotely from home. Make sure that you have that accountability with your boss. It makes things easy. Leverage technology. There's cloud storage, video conferencing platforms, multiple user license software, all that good stuff. Go paperless, okay? Make sure that you use technology to make things easy, quicker, faster. Remember, we're working in an ever technology advancing world, okay? The younger people are coming up, they're more tech savvy, they're smarter, wiser, faster, quicker. So you got to give them the tools to make sure that productivity is quickened, all right? Having said that, share your budget plans with your team. Include your schedule and quality expectations. Share with your people. If they know what your mind is thinking of, what your plan is, then they're quickened on the inside to want to work with you to stick to that plan. So share your plans with your team. Include those schedule and quality expectations. Delegate power to your team. Delegate to your team members, empower them. Give them the authority to make some decisions, okay? Whether they are make or buy, whether they are negotiating, whether they are outsourcing, give them that power to get stuff done. What are you doing? You are grooming your replacement. You are replicating yourself. You are having, if it's KD, for instance, myself, I have 3 or 4 other KDs that I have built up because I'm delegating and empowering them. They eventually become as good as I am. And guess what? My team, my organization becomes more efficient and more productive because there are 3 of me. That's just the way it works. All right. Teach your people how to negotiate well. Learn and apply the principles of BATNA and ZOPA. I did talk about BATNA earlier on. I talked about ZOPA. Okay? Best alternative to a negotiated agreement and zone of possible agreement. These are things you can check out later in some of our courses going forward. All right? Share the principles and need for frugal spending. Leverage focusing, tunneling, and trade-off thinking. We talked about that, okay? We talked about focusing, tunneling, and trade-off thinking. I hope you were taking notes. Prioritize your assignments. Use Steve Covey's matrix to determine your important tasks, your urgent tasks, your watch list tasks, and their execution. All right? Software. You want to purchase and install project management software, whether it's MS Project, Concept Draw, Office, Project Libre, Asana, Zoha, Primavera, Timberline, or any other industry relevant alternative. Just make sure that you help your people along with software that is not an impediment to them, but can help them produce more. All right? You want to learn to use fundamental project management tools. All right? What are these? Gantt charts, WBSs, network diagrams, critical path methodologies. We have PM classes and programs at KD Leadership that you can leverage. You just go to kdleadership.com, courses or products, and you're able to get your hands on them. But at the end, I'll show you exactly what you need to do to get some more information and to get yourself prepared for this new year. All right? Understand and leverage Slacks and resource leveling techniques during project execution. These are just final thoughts I'm giving you on how to do more with less, okay? You want to plan and schedule your projects collaboratively with team members. This is very, very important. That's why I have it twice. Your people must be involved in the planning stages in order to get them to execute very effectively. If you don't do that, they're going to slack off during execution, and you don't want that, okay? All right, and then you want to encourage self-tracking by making the Gantt charts and network diagrams available for all team members. If you have access to the blueprint, the plan, it allows them to self-track themselves. They track themselves, and it helps you not micromanage them. You're able to step back because they have the information on paper showing what tasks they have to get done, when they have to get them done, and the quality expectations. All right? Encourage them by giving them the Gantt charts. Milestone. That's the only word I'll say. Milestone. Okay? Break it up into chunks, put them up in calendar dates. That's a milestone plan. Help your other team members. You want to build your executive currency. All right. Basically, having said that, okay? Having said all these things, what are we looking at here? What are we looking at here? All right? It's been a lot of material, very little time. A lot of material I've shared with you, very little time. So what do you have to do? I want you to do something about your professional growth, something about your business profits, something about your team. Remember, later never happens. Let me say that again. Later never happens. We have a habit of saying, I'm going to do it later. And we procrastinate and we put it aside, and somehow it never quite happens. I'm guilty of that. I'm working with that. I'm hoping you are. I'm hoping that part of your New Year resolution is to reduce the later, get it done now. And that is in consonance with what the famous Mother Teresa once said. She said, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow is not yet here. We have only today. Let us begin. Let me say that again. Mother Teresa says, yesterday is gone. Forget it. Tomorrow is not yet here. We have only today. Let us begin. Having said that, my recommendations for you, my suggestion for you is, my friends, if you're under the influence of my voice today, I'm going to say, do it in real time. That's part of my new acronym. I call it DIRT, D-I-I-R-T. Do it in real time. So what I'm asking you to do is very simple, and it will cost you absolutely nothing. Right now, I want you to go and set up your 30-minute private meeting to discuss further with us. Okay? Where are you going to do that? You're going to be discussing that. I'm going to be setting that up at calendly.com, KDE leadership /30 minutes. And in order to do that, I'm going to again share my screen with you. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you again because it's important that you see what I have for us here. It's very, very important that you see that screen because you need to see that link. That's our virtual calendar. That's really all it is. Okay, this allows you to, having heard all this, having watched this, having digested this, you have a few questions before you make any commitments. Go to calendly.com /KDE leadership /30 minutes. You go in there, You choose a time. You see our calendar, it spans up to 6 months ahead of time. You select a time where you can have a meeting with me for 30 minutes. It's a free Zoom meeting. You don't pay anything for it. You come with your questions about all this. I'll also ask you to go to our website at kdeleadership.com. When you go to that website, you're going to see some of our programs available, okay? Especially where it says products and where it says courses. You're going to see some of our products available. Go in there, get around, look at it before you schedule this meeting so you have some questions coming in. All right? So having said that, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, for being with me today. I hope I've been able to guide you and help you to get your mind set for the new year. Get your mind set to doing great things this coming year. And so I will say, thanks for watching. I will see you at the meeting. And until then, take care of yourselves, be safe, and don't forget to go ahead and book that meeting with us at www.calendly.com/KDE leadership/30 minutes. See you there. This is Dr. KD Ewulu, and I will be signing out. Take care of yourselves right now, and we'll talk again later on. Bye for now.